What people keep doing that, don't they, with the little
I've never seen that.
Oh my God, I miss these blankets in the house. They're so cute.
I know, like Nana's.
We're gonna have to change
It's cold
colour.
today.
It's chilly today.
It's cold.
Very chilly.
I didn't want to come here in my trousers, but I have got trousers on.
I've got full-on jumper on. I just wrap this around my bum as well to keep me warm.
I've really held on with the shorts, but I just couldn't quite do it
Have you put the
anymore.
shorts away?
Winter's
coming.
I don't want to say they're fully away, but
They're definitely away. Don't be silly. This is ridiculous. There's been serious frost in the mornings.
we've had a tiny bit. But I guess you're a bit north here, aren't you?
Yeah.
Right. Should we get into today's episode? Because I feel like this is a long one. I know usually we do 2 topics, kind of split the episode into 2. But we're talking about all things schooling this week. And we have had an awful lot of engagement, comments.
I did not realise this was such an emotive topic. I thought it was just something that was...
It's been quite interesting, actually. And we've done a lot of our own research, been listening to some podcasts as well. But I think we've talked about schooling ourselves a lot personally.
That's the thing. I think I just presumed it was just something that we talked about.
Do you think we talk about it because our schooling experiences are so different?
Yes, and also because I think I was at a transitional period with Anna's.
Yes.
So that brought it to the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you think about I don't want to say I was a nerd, okay, but I enjoyed school. I worked really, really hard. Was pushing academically, to be fair. Went off to uni, went off and did a master's as well. And I guess that academic side is something which has always it's come easily to me.
It's evident though as well, I think. I was shocking. I coasted through school on a wing and a prayer. I went under the radar for everything. I think I've said this before, haven't I? To the point that, like, I think in year 8 we did like telling the time, and I could not tell the time. Like, how did a child get to that age? That's Anna's age now.
Yes. Yeah, which is crazy.
12 years old, 13 years old. How did a child get to that age without being able to properly read a clock? I mean, oh my God, that is so bad. So bad. And I'm by no means stupid, I know that. But yeah, it's just weird, isn't it?
Well, we've got a lot of questions to kind of ask around this in terms of what's it like for farming kids to go to school, to homeschool or not to homeschool, private school or not. There's so much to talk about. But
to be angry about private schools and not, which seems to be just...
God, the chip on people's shoulders.
It's really bad.
But I wanted to play a video first. It is from a little while ago, but for some reason, and obviously because our phones are listening to us, it had cropped up on my phone. You'd also seen it.
I'd also seen this. Your phones really do listen to you.
It's scary, isn't it?
Even when you talk about handbags and then they make you buy one.
Yeah.
The 8-year-old iPhone.
They made you. They made me. So this is a video. I don't know if anybody watches Stacey Dooley's documentaries. I find them quite interesting, actually. But this is one about homeschooling. And I sent it to you. You were like, I've already seen this. And it piqued the interest in doing this as a topic. As we said, it seems like you're all interested in it as well. So I will play this video and try and start it from the beginning.
I'll overlay it over.
8-year-old I've met that goes... Every other 8-year-old I've met that goes to sort of mainstream school can write their name and they can read certain books, and your boy can't.
Yeah, but what's it stopping him from doing other than
We
meeting
don't know,
test
do we?
requirements?
Because he's not grown yet. So
No.
it might get to the stage where, I don't know, he's 13, 14, he still can't write, he still can't read. And then that does limit what he can do going forward into a career.
I don't know any home-educated children that go past the teenage phase and don't pick up the literacy skills.
So that will be a priority for you, because it doesn't feel like it is at the minute.
At the minute, no, there's no hurry because he's only 8 years old and it's absolutely fine for him to take his time picking up those skills. So that's
But are the
why
other
it's
kids-
not urgent right now.
Are the other kids being given a bit of a head start?
Earlier is not better. And they've proven this in numerous studies that actually the children that are put into education settings younger and younger now, it's not improving their performance overall later on. And the children in Europe that are starting school 7 years plus, they're not any more behind. In fact, they're often excelling more.
Now, I have a lot to say about this video. The first thing is that this child which can't read is being placated with a bloody iPad, which just I find staggering. Like, give him a book or something. But anyway, we won't get into screens too much because I think we've done screen time.
I don't know,
before
because
and-
actually it does come into it. I think it really does. But I think a lot of people are disillusioned with schools in general and their increasing reliance on technology and screens. And I think that will play a part in why some people will pull their children out.
It's interesting, isn't it? I guess the thing is, any devices, any technology can be used for good purposes. You know, I'm sure you can do spelling exercises and stuff on them. But if you're just watching something on your iPad, I don't think you're going to pick up literacy skills from watching a cartoon.
So weirdly, this is not, we've not led into this on purpose, but last night I gave Rufus an iPad. Now you know.
Right,
my
hold on.
thoughts.
Sorry, can you just repeat that? You've given Rufus an iPad.
Shall I play you the video of me nearly crying opening it? I'm just not happy about it. And it's the iPad in front of me, actually. This one here. I'm not happy about it. I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know. I was backed into a corner mostly by Roy because he says we're doing him not damage as such, but we are potentially holding him back in spelling, and he can't do his online homework like everyone else. So they do Lexia, they do TT Rockstars, it's called. They do several other things that are on iPads. Anna did this, but then obviously I then went down the route of taking technology off them.
Yes.
She'd already done it. Now, am I holding Rufus back? So Rose just been to parents' evening. I didn't want to go because I'm a big old wimp. And I'm used to being told, yes, the children are absolutely fine, don't worry about it. And yet this child's the case. It's maybe not a glowing report.
Yes.
It's not a horrible report by any means, but he's definitely not excelling. And Ray came home and said, I think that it possibly is us holding him back. So I said, fine. It's not the case that we couldn't give him an iPad. I had a brand new iPad sat in the cupboard that I hadn't got out of the box. So I unwrapped the iPad and I've put every parental control on it that is possible to get. I've paid extra through God knows iCloud, this, that and the other. And yeah, I've said he can only have it an hour a night when he gets home from school. So he can come home and that, 3:30 to 4:30, he can have it and he can do whatever he needs to do on it at the table.
Yeah.
Not sat in front of a television. And then he can go out and do his usual, because I don't want to impact on the time when his granddad comes and watches him build ramps and mess around on his bike.
Yeah.
And I think that's what kids should be doing they really should. But if I'm holding him back, I'm happy to say, that's my fault. I have done this. So we'll see if it improves.
Yes.
So his spelling, I think it was something like they were meant to know 200 words and he knew 160.
Yeah.
So he is behind.
Yes. Yeah.
And it just is interesting. I don't know. But into the homeschooling thing, I couldn't homeschool.
Well, that is going to be the first part of the episode on homeschooling. Now, sorry for being the boring one with a couple of statistics, but I just thought it was interesting to set the scene quickly. So a census in autumn 2024, local authorities reported there were 111,700 children in elective home education. So you're choosing to home educate your child. This is an increase from, it's about a 20,000 increase from the year before. So not massive numbers, but when you look at it, there were 9 million children in school. So actually it's a very small percentage of children in general, but the increase, I think, that's quite large. The 9 million children includes all pupils in state-funded nursery, primary, secondary, special schools, non-maintained special schools, pupil referral units, general hospital schools, and independent schools. So it is still a very...
Religious schools as well.
Oh. That didn't come up on the website.
Religious schools are duty bound to follow the curriculum, but they can teach whatever they want in RE. So, for instance, if you were, Islamic or whatever, any religion, if you were Jewish or whatever, you would follow the national curriculum. Your school would then obviously put it into the school's curriculum, and then you can teach whatever religion you want.
That's
which is interesting. Yeah, so there are religious schools.
When we did RE, though, the whole point was that we learned about Christianity, but we did also learn about Judaism, Islam.
Oh, you're going down a rabbit hole right now.
Well,
Yes, we learnt about everything. I don't think that's the case in religious schools.
Okay, we'll leave that there, Charlotte. But I think it's just interesting to look at the numbers there to see where we're pitching at. One thing I did look up is kind of the ages. Now, I couldn't find loads on this, but only 3% of children who are being homeschooled were in group 1. So what's year 1? How old is a year 1 child?
6.
So that's little.
Reception is like 4 and 5, like 6 and 7.
Okay. 19% of children they thought were in year 11. Now, I think that's a lot, because I didn't know whether actually you homeschooled when they were little to let them develop at a slower rate or...
See, that's what I would do.
Yes.
I think those more important years. But then again, that's if you hold what's the word? If you like exams.
Yes.
If you hold any respect for exams in
Yes.
general.
Yes. Well, I've just written kind of a load of thinking points. As I said, we've been listening to a podcast about it. We've had loads of thoughts. So there's an idea that if children go to school, they get a thicker skin. So there's this concept that perhaps they have to endure bullying and therefore they build more resilience. Now, I think there's a line between resilience and bullying.
There's a massive line between...
And tolerance as well.
Huge. And it also, I think it does... I've several times thought I'm going to pull Rufus out of school. Like, I just can't be asked with the whole... I don't know. It's funny how you go from two polar opposite children. Anna loved school, excelled in school, everything was fine. But then again, at the time, we had more time to put into her. And then we've got to Rufus and he really does not like it. Doesn't like it at all.
I've got this point written further down. Just because a child doesn't like school, should we take them out? Now, the podcast we listened to, they had a like little 3-year-old, 4-year-old, whatever. He didn't like going to his preschool or his nursery. And they were like, yeah, we keep asking him if he does like it or he doesn't like it. Well, actually...
If you ask a school, the school will always say, or a nursery will say, they're fine when you're not here.
Yes.
And they do enjoy themselves when you're not here. And I've seen it on school trips and things. I used to go in and help in school. And children whose parents are on the trip, the child automatically plays up while the parent is there. If the parent wasn't there, the child would not play up.
Yes.
I don't know what it is.
But I think this is...
Mine were the same. Anna was the same.
Yeah.
Anna would turn into an absolute arsehole. If I went on a school trip, I'd be like, what are you doing? Get off me. Go and do what all the other children do. And it's really hard work.
Well, this is another question. If children of 3, 4, 5, 10, 11, whatever, they don't really know what they enjoy properly as such, they'll like one thing one day and one thing the next. They'll have a different friend each day of the week. Children are quite fickle. So one of the things that cropped up was, oh, well, you've got to let them do what they enjoy. And if they enjoy being outside, now we'll move on to farm children in a bit, but if they enjoy being outside, then we should let them enjoy being outside. Now, to me, I think that's ridiculous. Yes, if we can factor in more outside time, more exercise, etc. into schooling, that would be amazing. But to me, I was always told, keep as many doors open as possible. Now, if you decide that you don't like maths and physics and chemistry, but you like art, and then actually you decide when you're 14, 15 that you don't really like art anymore, but you've pushed yourself down the art route, or you're coming from a lot different position, you've got a lot more work to make up. If you then, say you decided you liked art when you were 11.
Like changing careers.
But I think careers can be, once you've got workplace skills, some of that is a bit more transferable.
Yeah.
If you like art when you're 12, and then in your GCSE options only pick creative subjects, I'm using this because it's like a polar opposite example.
Yeah.
But then when you leave school, you think, oh gosh, I wish I'd done
Fancy
something.
accountancy.
Yeah. Or gosh, I think engineering or being a vet or something or whatever. And I know there's other slightly less conventional routes into these subjects, into these careers. But I think you've got to keep doors open. And maybe I'm speaking from this position of being advised with that, you know, from as early as I can remember. I took fairly broad subjects at GCSE. I hated maths and physics, but I know you have to do maths and you have to do science, don't you? But I didn't really like them. And I still worked hard at them and did well in them, even though they didn't come easy to me. English came easy to me. History came easy to me.
Yeah.
Maths and science didn't really. And I just think that sometimes you have to put yourself in a position to work hard at something that you don't like to then see a reward at the end of it, which means that if you then did decide to pursue something, you've got that opportunity. You haven't closed the door.
I think as well, it's a teaching style. You can be encouraged to like a subject. Anna has, she's gone to a new school and she has found an English teacher. And she thinks he's absolutely wonderful. And all of a sudden, English is her new favourite subject. And guess what? She's excelling at English. And she never did.
It's interesting.
So that want to please, that want to do well, that, you know, the need to excel that's been brought on by a person.
Yes.
And their teaching style and their mannerisms and the fact that they both seem to like the Arctic Monkeys. I mean, but do you know what I mean? How are you going to explore subjects with just your parents teaching you? That's something I find really interesting.
Well, what about there's two things when it comes to parents themselves. The first one is the capability.
That's the bit
of
that I
the parent.
don't get. Now I remember sitting in history and listening to somebody reel off God knows what. Like, do you know what I mean? I barely remember anything. It was a long time ago, but I would not be able to do that, as I do not know enough. I mean, I couldn't even do Anna's maths homework in primary school. How on earth would I do it at 12, 13 years old? I mean, the things she's writing in it, I haven't got a clue anymore.
And particularly with some kind of, let's say, new stuff coming through, coding, for example.
I could do that.
Could you?
yeah, I could, yeah.
I couldn't.
Could
not
you
even
not?
close. Reading, spelling, all of that side of stuff.
You weren't a MySpace child, were you?
No.
Oh, well, yeah, it was an era. We could have broke into the government website. Honestly, you give us a bit of code and we're away. And that's true. That was because we wanted to do it, because it was fun. The internet was new back then.
Yes.
Websites were new, social media was new, and wanting the lyrics to My Chemical Romance behind your MySpace page was everything. And I would have broken doors down to be able to do it.
That's so funny. Yeah, I completely missed out on that, you know.
It was fun.
Completely missed out. But then again, I don't really do anything I was probably late to the party when it came to anything to do with computers in comparison to my peer group.
So a lot of people also on this podcast, especially, they were talking about the late introduction to technology, which was they keep the kids away from phones. They can introduce that later. They keep them away from iPads. They can introduce that later. And there's no peer pressure around it. Now that I agree with, because I have obviously, for obvious reasons, struggled with giving the children or not giving them technology. And
what about the relationship between parent and child that then has to almost be
You're joking, I'd lose my shit.
And child?
No, absolutely not. I think it takes a special person to be able to successfully homeschool a child.
Yes.
I could not.
Yeah. And I think
Roy could not. When it was COVID, I sent my children to my mum's for 6 weeks at a time, and she did it.
Really?
Anna was the only one at school at the time, but she homeschooled. I'd just be like, why do you not get this? It's so simple, look at it. No. And I'd just be like pointing at the page, and I'm like, what am I doing?
Yes.
Like,
but
what
then,
am I doing?
On the other side, you are not a parent who homeschools. Perhaps the parents who choose to homeschool have, I'm going to say, more patience, Charlotte, actually. I'm going to use the word.
I think that might be true. I think that might be true.
But more inclination, but actually more inclination to teach. But what happens if...
They obviously want to do it.
Yes.
Otherwise they wouldn't have taken it as a route.
But then do you get a bias in what that parent teaches the child because they're not interested in geography? Are they going to teach their child things about geography?
I don't think they have to. That's the thing.
Well, I was just about to say, but then they'll say, well, they don't need to know every capital city in the world because I want them to learn different skills to that. It's more... Well, actually, that's a question. The life skills like financial planning, how to buy a house, things which you do...
Understanding tax.
Yeah. Charlotte, I'm still a long way off that.
Yeah, I know.
Should schools be teaching that?
Yes.
Or should parents be are those not life lessons which are forged in the home?
I wish I could remember it was who set up schools and for what reason. And it was basically to make a good worker. It wasn't to make a good leader. It wasn't to make a good person running a house. It wasn't to make a successful person well-rounded. It was to make a good worker, to go out into the workplace and work for someone else and be a good worker.
Do you think that's because there were more workers, people who would turn up for work every single day and work was a more needed almost... We have lots of people now who are probably leaders of it. There's more leaders in relation to workers now, if that makes sense. Back then, the actual down-on-the-ground workers, because of mechanisation, technology, etc., we don't need as many workers now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. Yeah. It's a funny one, and I did not get on with education at all. Obvious reasons. I can't sit still. I lose focus. I mean, stick a whiteboard in front of me and I am gone, like spinning around in my chair, gone. It is pathetic to see a full-grown adult not be able to do and I have to try very, very hard, especially in like proper conversations. Like, I can talk to you, which is fine because I know you and you will forgive the vague looks sometimes. Whereas if I'm in an environment that I know I need to, be engaged, like, it's just ridiculous to try and concentrate on what a person's saying.
Yes.
And I think for that reason, homeschooling could possibly benefit people like me. But my mum would be like me. She'd have never been in a position to be able to do that.
Yes.
I don't think.
Well,
I don't know. How do you discover what you like and what you would potentially want to do for the rest of your life if you've not got them options open to you?
Yeah. Well, I think now would be a good time to hear, I guess, a few other perspectives. Now, completely coincidentally, there was a post on a Facebook group that we are both part of, and I will get that up now. And I think one thing to keep in mind when I read this post and some of the comments is actually if your child spends their whole time in detention, sitting outside the classroom, excluded, they're not getting any education whatsoever. So is homeschooling an environment where they can be free to express themselves, whatever that means?
Or is it just allowing more poor bad behaviour?
Well, that would be my personal opinion, but I'm coming from am I biasing it because I'm coming from a place of enjoying school?
I know, and I hate it. I am the opposite to you.
Yes,
I absolutely hated it. I hated it in still. I hated everything about it. So I wouldn't say I was the naughty child sat outside the classroom. I wasn't. I was probably the girl version of one of those boys.
Yes, yeah,
who couldn't sit still. So I do feel strongly that education isn't for everybody, but. See what other people have to say.
So the post, I won't read the full post, but it was a troublesome, somebody asking for advice on a troublesome teenage boy. School is forever giving me bad behaviour reports. Today, he's only gone and let off a fire extinguisher. Blah, blah, blah. And she's asking...
Tiny bit extreme,
yeah,
but okay.
Not great. Asking for advice. So some of the comments on here. So I'll just kind of read them out. Homeschooling. He will learn more, have hands-on experience. Not all lessons are learnt in a classroom. Which is, to be fair, there is an element of that. Not all lessons are learnt in the classroom. But whilst our schooling system, our university and college system and our employment system still demands academic grades, are you, is your child going to be at a disadvantage? We home educate our daughters, not because they're naughty, just because school really isn't everything. They have more of a social life now they are home educated. I don't know what age they are, but do they need a social life when they're little? I don't know. Socialisation, yes. A social life, no.
I think that's probably what they mean.
And have the chance to experience more real life than the school life. This is interesting. Our local area has thousands of home-educated children. It's a fab community with so much going on. My eldest will sit some of her GCSEs a year early and only have to concentrate on the subjects that interest her. Which we've kind of touched on that.
I do think you excel when you concentrate on what interests you. I mean, for instance, in school, I did art. I wasn't particularly good at it, and yet I have made a very successful path for myself with doing art. I mean, I know I don't do it anymore because we've got the farm, but I can make a decent living off being an artist. and doing
Yes.
artwork.
Yeah.
But that's because it's what interested me. So I
Yes.
excelled.
Yes.
Whereas if I'd been pushed into being an accountant, absolutely not.
But also, not every child excels in a subject that means they can go on to do that for a career. They just need a good grounding across the board.
Yes, I agree, yeah.
All my lad wants to do is work. He can't cope with school, turns into a different child there. I'm considering home struggling as I can't watch my lad struggle and be unhappy. That's an interesting one because the unhappiness, I'm obviously not a parent, must be quite torturous to watch.
It's
But-
me. It's awful.
But where does he can't cope with school. We've actually had a comment on our Wilson and Ashley podcast community. Bit of a shameless plug. Join us on Facebook. It's a bit more of
we
like
have a
chatty-
community.
Yes.
It's basically so we can use you all.
Yes, and you can send us your thoughts and stuff. But there's an interesting comment on that. We'll move on to that in a second, actually. An interesting comment on there about labelling children. You know, are some children struggling in school because they're neurodivergent, or do some children know how to play the system? They can't be asked to sit in lessons all day, so they act up. So that
It's a mental health thing all over again. It's a bit of both.
so they get kicked out. So this one was interesting, and I think this was quite, I guess, strongly worded. But this is probably where I sit. He may be bored and school not his thing, but he should know the right from wrong, respect and discipline. Just because he'd rather be at home/farm doesn't mean he can behave that way. A way that impacts other pupils is disrespectful and really just not acceptable. Teach him boundaries and respect, not only for other people, but his surroundings too. Otherwise, his poor behaviour will escalate. Do you agree with that?
100%. And I think bad behaviour and other pupils' behaviour and the lack of discipline from teachers because there's no respect shown by the children because
Yes.
it's coming through from a generation of parents that also have shown no respect to teachers. That's the reason some people will pull the children out of school.
Yes, absolutely. I think this is an interesting point. Let's bring it slightly on to farming. Sadly, nowadays, farming is not just farming. You need maths and English to keep on top of your paperwork, which is never ending, and computer skills. I think that's really interesting. If you think about, let's think about application rates for chemicals. You're going to have to do some sums, or at least know how to use a calculator to do some sums, or at least put it into your software, which calculates it. You're going to have to fill out some, let's say, forms to claim some grants. You know, yes, you could
Somatic cell counts in your cows. I mean, I showed a lad that we know who does some welding for us. He was here, and I showed him the computer, and it basically, he went, "Oh God, it's a page of numbers," and I went, "Yeah." Once you read it, the whole thing makes perfect sense. It is 100% from an outside perspective a page of numbers.
Yes. But even I think just being able to communicate clearly, convey the message that you want in specific terms and professionally with other people that you have to deal with on a farm. One, would take pride in that, and two, think it's important. If you can't put together an email because you can't spell and you can't write.
I know people who can't read, and they're older than me. Not.
Find that mind-blowing.
Isn't it? I did. I sat in a
Am I
tractor.
coming from this
No,
privileged position?
I don't know. I mean, I am as well, even though I was in the middle of Preston and, 1 in 3 children were under social services. That's not even a joke. 1 in 3 children in
Gee whiz.
schools will have been brought to the attention of social services at some point for one reason or another. It is a mind-blowing place to be. And you look around and you go, hold on, I've got 2 children.
Yes.
And then their friend comes around. Does that mean it's crazy how we are so fortunate? And Roy would tell the story. He was talking to an ex-head teacher
Yep.
who lives around the corner, not around the corner, but like next village. And he'd said to her, yeah, but we won't have any problems around here. Like we were talking about poverty.
Yes.
I think it was probably a reference to food banks or something like that.
Yeah.
And he said, no, we won't have any problems around here. And she was like, you would
you'd
be
be
so surprised.
Really?
Rural poverty it's just an absolute epidemic. It's unreal.
I've got a statistic on that for our second part, to hold that thought.
So what do you think would show such an increase in people pulling the kids out of schools? Because I thought COVID, and I hate to use that the big C word,
Do you know one thing that I think?
because they're all working from home now.
This would be a good time to play that voice note. I think it's about the sometimes the vibe which schooling is given off. Do people feel like their children could be indoctrinated? I know that's a strong word.
No, I agree.
Can we just round off with one positive comment from this post, which I think is an interesting point to end on with this one. We took our son when he was 13/14 to visit 6 ag colleges. Within 90 minutes of us being there, I think, he picked his GCSEs. He chose which one he preferred, and then he knew what grade he needed to do the course he wanted to do. Currently doing year 2, I think that's level 3 ag engineering. It helped when we spoke to the course leader, and he explained that the course leader explained that he needed English, maths, and 3 other GCSEs, blah, 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 blah. Now, I think that's a very positive way of dealing with it, because then, okay, if they're really being difficult at school, give them a direction which they want to pursue.
We could do apprenticeships. I seem to remember.
Yes.
And you were still in education. So like people that genuinely weren't enjoying education at all, they could sort of go down the apprenticeship route. I seem to remember. My school college was a bit of an outlet for kids that weren't necessarily academic.
Yes.
But on the other shoe...
Don't get me started on the not being academic side. You know my thoughts on that going into farming. That's
but on the shoe on the other foot, I personally didn't have a clue what I wanted to do.
Yes.
And semi-thick kids like me would either go into hairdressing or childcare. So I went to my Runshaw College in Leyland in Preston, and I scraped enough GCSEs to be able to go, luckily, because I got 4 Cs in IT because it was a combined course thing. And that's the only reason I got enough GCSEs to get into college.
Gosh.
Because you needed 5 Cs, this, that, and the other. And I went to do a course in childcare because that was all, it literally was pick it out of a hat. What do you want to do? And I didn't have a clue.
Yes.
But all that I felt was available to me was that. So I went and did childcare. I lasted just over a year and got kicked out of college because I did no work. I had no one to hold me accountable. They do say, you do your coursework. If you don't do it, it's on your shoulders.
Yes.
Well, I had more fun going and hanging around in the smoking area and
yes,
going to Worden Park across the road.
Yeah.
I fell to pieces when no one had a finger on me. And I think there'll be a lot of children like that.
Yes.
And that's what I find slightly troubling about the whole schooling system is it is not made for everybody.
Yes.
But neither's homeschooling. And it's such a privilege to be able to say, I will homeschool my children. I could technically, if I had the brain and the concentration, I could homeschool my children. I am by no means in any sticky situation.
Yes.
We have a farm. We have freedom. We have time. We have money. We are so privileged in the position that we sit in. And as are these people that are pulling their children out of school.
Yes. It is. I would 100% agree. It's a place of privilege. Right. Should we play that voice note about why people perhaps would?
So this is a voice note from my friend. I don't know. Does she want to remain nameless? Shall we call her Jelly?
So our children were homeschooled for a year because we felt it suited us better, suited our values better. And it meant because of the way farming works, trying to get holidays, you don't always want to go in the school holidays. You want to grab a day here and there, and that works for us. It worked really well. We hired a teacher, but then the cost of it just got too much, so I had to go back to work, and we didn't feel like you could work and have your children homeschooled. It just doesn't fit, especially with 3 of them fighting and running around, and all they want to do is farm. We tried to do it with as few screens as possible, so we would sort of use a Twinkle account, print stuff off, and we're still pushing back on that now the children have gone back to school. So funnily enough, my oldest has gone to high school and they've got a working from home day today, and we've pushed back on them having to do like a Teams meeting for their lessons. So he's had his work printed off, and actually I've raised it with the school about not using screens, and all of his working from home work today is things like mindfulness, reading a book. I think, to be honest, it's a bit of a cop-out, so that the teachers can have a day of meetings and
kind of just prove that the children are working even though they're not.
I'll just stop that there because it goes on for quite a while, doesn't it? But interestingly, Rufus, before he had his iPad that's in front of me, that I'm not very happy about, did I say that already? He had all of his homework printed off on sheets. And he came home one day and he said, I need to do the work on the sheet. I need to take it into school and I need to take a picture of it and upload it onto Google Classroom so that the teachers can mark it, even though he's going into the same classroom as the teachers.
So they couldn't...
With a piece of paper. And I was like, well, why is that a problem? Because it's really embarrassing. And I'm like, why is it really embarrassing? Because I've got to take a picture of it in school and people see me. And I'm like, why? I can't comprehend why that's embarrassing that people would see you take a picture. Well, there's only me and you know, a girl, and she's the only other one in the class that is unable to take pictures at home. And he was like, and I don't want people to think that I can't afford an iPad and this, that, and the other. And I was just like, and he was really upset. And I was like, this is ridiculous that at 8 years old you're concerned about what people think about you.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
But
absolutely crazy. But this is what life is.
And it's what life is, but it's what devices do in the sense that they are financially prohibitive.
Yes, they are.
And I think it's really sad that children are worried about that. Also, like, do they have time just to sit and colour? Like, how does that, everything is on, and I get that for teachers that...
No, they do it on Canva.
I just think we potentially are. I think the system is failing children. I think sometimes the demands of parenting alongside what parents are having to do is failing children. I just think childhood is not what it used to be. It's pressured. It's not as, you know, yeah, I'm sure when you were little, you were like, oh, well, they've got different trainers to me, or they've got this different coat. But it wasn't all consuming.
Do you know what I was always concerned about when I was little? This sounds really silly. My mum and dad used to, when Aldi first came to the UK, there was a huge one in Preston. And my dad used to go in and buy crisps, and they were like Aldi's own crisps. And everyone else used to have Walkers, and I used to have cheap crisps. And that, I remember being a standout, what I didn't like.
Yes.
And I remember feeling really self-conscious that I had like cheap crisps.
Crazy,
and other
isn't
people had like Walker's crisps. And if you had Walker's crisps, you were really rich.
How our brains work. I think now would be a good time to look what some of our podcast community said in our Facebook group. So we just asked for thoughts and experiences of homeschooling, you know.
It's been really well responded to, hasn't it?
It has. Loads of messages. So this is quite a long one, but I think it's exactly what we need. There are so many variables within this topic to discuss, such as the personality and needs of the individual child, the school setting, the cohort the child is placed within, etc. For some children, school is the right place for them to learn, and sometimes it isn't. It's a case of tailoring to the individual. Sometimes the school itself isn't the right place for that child, yet another school down the road could be perfect for them. I think that's quite interesting, because sometimes it's like, oh, will you go for a different feed company? Or a different vet?
Anna moving schools.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes even just the class of children they're placed in or the teacher they're placed with could be the right or wrong combination. I work part-time in an alternative provision for children who are struggling to access mainstream schooling alongside the farm, and we meet children who are supposedly unteachable, and as of yet, we've yet to meet a child who we agree with on this statement. All who have come through the door have learnt a form of emotional regulation that suits them in a setting they feel safe and ended up in a mindset where they can learn. Not that I think this for all children, but I personally believe, that's what he said, the COVID-19 provisions for children knocked their resilience above anything. Those children who missed social interaction and nursery EYFS setting lost so many valuable social and emotional skills, which we're seeing the results of now. My kids pull their faces if they feel like they're missing out things at home on the farm. But they have all been drilled that getting an education is the most important thing they can do for the farming future, and that they are helping us by going to school to access it, just like we all had to. Yes, school is the right place for our kids, so it makes it easier, but even if school wasn't, education is an umbrella of all different categories, so is still needed to grow an individual, whatever that looks like, whether it be school, alternative provision, or homeschooling. I think she kind of sums it up.
I think she sums everything up there.
I think it's right. This is interesting.
I'm really sorry about the dogs. There's obviously someone here. We'll just ignore them, actually.
Cammy and Lizzie.
Funnily enough, we decided to do an episode on homeschooling, and I haven't reached out. I should have done. I text him. Well, we just let the dogs bark away for a minute.
Hi, influencers. Love the podcast. Great work. I've been listening to you talking about homeschooling and education and stuff. With regards to homeschooling, Lizzie and I are setting off with the best of intentions to homeschool the kids. She tells me I have to call it home education, but part of the thing with homeschooling them is to fight against the system a bit, so I'm calling it homeschooling because that's what I want to call it. And after various reasons, I was dead against it at first. We were in a really good catchment for a really good school in Kilmarnock, in the same school I went to when I was younger, so I was all for, kids go to school, and Lizzie's definitely been the champion of homeschooling. And to be fair, she'll be the one doing the brunt of the work. She already is the one doing the brunt of the work in all forms, bringing up the kids and the farm, and she does the most of the work. There's no question about that. So really, who am I to argue against her? But I am actually, she's totally won me over, and I'm all in favour of it. When you look at a lot of the things that are added into schooling to pad it out, PE, for example, the boys are already going to rugby, they already go swimming, we'll add other sports. I quite fancy adding tennis in. We have a good tennis place near us, plus, great way to buy a bigger farm, isn't it, if your son can win Wimbledon, or daughter, equal prize money now, although, one only plays 3 sets, other plays 5. Some would say, how equal is that? It's not very fair if you work out the hourly rates, but that's a tangent, and I love a tangent. Back to the homeschooling thing. We're going to try it. They might break our spirits. We might end up send them to school, but we're going to set off with the best of intentions. And the main thing is that we can educate them the way we want them to be educated. We can cut out all the crap that we think, young kids and kids in general probably don't need to learn, and also add in the things that we think they do need to learn that schools don't do. I left school, I could work out, I can't do it anymore, but I could work out the volume of a sphere, right? And the velocity of an aeroplane in advanced higher maths, but I couldn't work out VAT. I didn't know anything about VAT. I didn't know anything about mortgages. APR. What are all these things that you actually need for life? So for me, it's cut all that crap out. Focus on the important things. Arithmetic, English and grammar, and these things are important as well. But again, we're living in a world where all that's done for you, innit? You need to know the basics. It will sometimes make people feel stupid for if we take dyslexic people and stuff like that, just because they're getting there and there mixed up. It doesn't matter. You still read the sentence the same. I think we hang up too much on that. So we teach our kids as best we can, focus on the things we think that are important, and we're just going to see where it leads us. It might be a success or it might be a disaster. I've spoke to other people that have homeschooled or home educated kids, and it seems to be a real big win. And the thing we get back from people quite often is, it's difficult having this conversation with you because I'm just voice noting, so I can't get, I've got to ramble on here for a bit, and hopefully you guys are interjecting and abusing me, which I love. But some of the common things we'll get back is, what about the social side and all that? Well, I don't know if you've seen kids these days, right? They have no social skills. They have no social skills. Anxiety is through the roof with kids at school. There's obviously a lot of bullying and stuff. The internet's a big factor in these things as well. There's so many negatives of the schooling thing that when people try and throw them at me as a what about this and what about that, when you actually look at it, school's not like we remember it. When I was there was no social media, or it came in in my last 2 years of school, but it was, even then you had to pay a fortune for Bebo or whatever it was to get it on your phone or on your computer at home. So we grew up in the last sort of generation in the early 2000s of none of that crap, and just boys were boys, and we just had a laugh. We played rugby and we chased the birds, and it was great. Whereas now it's all social media and bullying, and people want to identify as cats and all this nonsense. So if we can shelter them away from that, they're going to socialise plenty of kids. They already do. They're at every farm show that's going. The market. They're going to do homeschooling groups, rugby, all these things. I'm confident about it, but I'm not saying that we're right. I'm just saying that that's what we're going to do for our kids with the best intentions. And I've rambled on enough there. We probably need to cut that down.
Not influencers.
Thanks, influencers. Shut up.
Says the biggest influencer going.
He's probably the most convincing person I've heard talk about homeschooling. But Cami, I couldn't disagree more with you on there, and there. That is no. Once we've lost the grasp of the English language, we've got nothing left.
You're talking to someone who just said Disney.
Yeah, the Scottish language.
Yeah, they're teaching it somewhere entirely different up there.
Yeah, I.
Do you know what?
Around anxiety, phones, etc.
One of the reason Anna doesn't have a phone because, and it's funny, even at the school she's at now, they only have their phones for an hour or so at night, and then they're locked away completely. But she said as soon as people get their phones, they turn into zombies, and obviously she doesn't have one, so that's her time when she rings me and we chat away. The children at her age, I mean, Anna set up a youth club in our local village with the youth minister because she used to go and volunteer at the luncheon club for the older people after school, and then they ended up roping her into setting up this youth club, and no one turned up. No one turned up, which was heartbreaking for something that she thought her friends would go to, and then no one turned up. They wanted to go home and sit and play on their phones.
Yeah.
So I do completely agree that when people throw at you the socialisation of homeschooling children, absolute bullshit.
Well,
because these children have no social skills.
Yeah.
They walk along the road, they can't make eye contact, they can't hold a conversation.
There is more socialisation to be had going to rugby training, speaking to your coach at rugby, speaking to other farmers at shows, or even, sometimes these farming kids are having full-blown conversations with members of the public about the sheep that they've just taken into the ring. That, to me, there is a lot of value in that.
I completely agree with him, and he's convinced me to just take Rivers out of school and homeschooling. No, I'm joking.
Can I just say one thing
couldn't.
anecdotally about phones? Okay, I've enforced a no phones rule. As soon as I've had a shower and I go into the bedroom,
Well, that's why you don't reply.
No phones. I've even put my charger away from my bedside table.
No, that's too much.
So now, when I get into bed, Harry Potter audiobook,
Obviously.
I read a book, and I go to sleep. And I tell you what, my sleep, and I've only been doing this for literally a matter of days, transformational. I cannot tell you. Now, whether the whole blue light before bed thing obviously is not meant to be good for your sleep, but one thing that I found, my mind never stops. It's actually...
It's an issue.
It's a challenge, yeah. It never stops. And so I repeatedly wake up. I could wake up every hour or two in the night and be worrying. My mind is thinking of jobs I've got to do. I haven't replied to my friend from 6 months ago, but I haven't replied to that opportunity to go and do a speaking event, or that brand, or that person. And it's overwhelming to basically be doing it all.
I'm remembering lyrics from an All Saints song from 1990.
But the problem is, once I woke up worrying...
Few questions that I need to know.
You'd go on your phone.
Yeah, of course you do.
You go on your phone, and then, genuinely, I could spend 2 hours on my phone at 1 o'clock in the morning.
I know the amount of times I've sent you a message at 4 a.m. thinking that I'd get no reply, and you're like, oh, hi, and I'm like, what the hell are you doing awake?
Somebody messaged me about the Airbnb at 5 o'clock the other morning. I replied straight away, yeah, it'll be this much, blah, blah, blah. Oh, exclamation mark. And I'm like, yeah, I'm awake.
I'm here.
But anyway, transformed it. Sorry, that was a tangent, a Cami tangent that was. But
it was, no, I think we should go and see Cami. We should do a podcast.
Yeah, Cami has a brilliant podcast. I'm sure you will listen to it because he's got
let's
literally millions
go
of
and get
listens.
on his podcast because his is better than ours.
Yeah, it is.
He doesn't have a good studio. We could go on his podcast, but in our studio. We could do a collab.
Oh, like that.
That sounds fun. No, I think, honestly, they'll be brilliant at homeschooling. That was a very convincing why, and you can tell he's doing it for the right reasons.
Yes. And he's also willing to say that it may not work. Not everything is successful. I think he'd replied to a comment and it said basically, yeah, well, we're going to try it until they break our souls.
Yeah,
and I had to laugh.
I can imagine. But it is, when we've put out, a call for information on homeschooling, it is a lot more common than I thought, especially in farming families. Several people have come forward and said, I homeschool and I did not know. So not everyone's shouting about it as such. But I wonder if they have the same kind of stigmas as me not shouting about Anna going to school.
Yes, absolutely.
Are people not talking about it because they're a little bit like they think they're going to get some flack for it?
Yeah. They're trying to do the best for your children. Somehow, out of nowhere, is an opportunity for people to troll you.
Don't you worry. If that man comes after you on Twitter again, I will tell him to F off. That Roy told me off. He was like, you've got to take
You can't
that off.
use language
You
like
can't
that.
use that. I was like, literally just fuck off. Okay, so this is from Lucy at Horncastle Farm. She has Instagram, and I asked her a couple of questions after she replied to our story saying that she's recently started homeschooling her children. And I said, what factors do you foresee that would contribute to a well-rounded home education over regular schooling? And she said, I think the biggest challenge is giving... There's literally a rat. What's it doing?
Right, we're going on a rat hunt after this.
We are actually... There's a rat squeaking. Like, I hate to be all, bringing it down to earth, but there's an actual rat squeaking somewhere. I'm sure the cat's caught it. So Lucy said, I think the biggest challenge is giving enough social interaction, which we do this through sports, drama clubs. Also, recognising when a teacher is best. We hire a tutor to do private maths and English tuition as we want to get it right for them. So I said, what are your personal reasons for considering home education? And she said, school closed down, a little independent school, and we couldn't afford another private school in the area. Our state school couldn't fit both children in, so it would be different schools for both of them, which we didn't want. They've always been in the same class. They've always been a little anti-establishment, and we worry about social pressures on our children and the school's inability to give my children the attention they deserve. We try to shoehorn everyone into a strict curriculum, which I completely agree with.
And it's the things, the class size, all the rest of it, things which have kind of been brought up before.
And can we just say as well, people don't get paid to keep their children at home. There is no funding available, which I find very interesting.
I did read a comment somewhere that the cost of putting a
Yeah, you have to
homeschool
pay for your
child,
exams.
through GCSEs and etc.
Well, I don't agree with that. I don't think they should have to, because if you go to a state school, you get paid for. So why would... I said, what are your thoughts on screen time? Do you integrate technology into your schooling? We definitely use screen time, whether it's a resource like Twinkle, YouTube, BBC, National Geographic, etc. It's actually often used like a punishment in our house, as in sit down and have a minute on your tablet. I love that. What are the stigmas you feel surround home education? Massive from friends and family that feel we aren't capable of delivering, or that these are the wrong for thinking, we are wrong for thinking state system isn't right for us at this minute. I'm not saying we won't ever look to it, but they feel our children will be poorly educated or have a lack of social skills. The irony is that ours are the two most confident children in a social setting, which is really funny. What did your dad say? I know this is on homeschooling, but what did your dad say when he'd met a girl who'd gone to the same school that Anna's going to?
That was really interesting. So he'd never met her before. She was maybe like 16, 17, I think. So kind of an age when most teenagers find themselves being most awkward. Anyway, it was at some family friends, and she got up, introduced herself, shook his hand. Now that is a really important thing, a really simple thing, but something which is lost and missed for a lot of children. That's not something that they would do, be taught to do, feel comfortable doing. And genuinely, that education had instilled in it this sense of respect for adults, this sense of commanding a room as well. Now, I'm not saying you don't get that from homeschooling. A lot of that is values in general. Now, I wouldn't say many state schools instill that sense of value in their pupils.
I agree.
I would say that private schools do, and if you're homeschooling and it comes from the parents, then that can happen as well. But I don't think that sense of etiquette, could you call it, the respect, I really think it's lacking in many schools, and I might get shot down for saying that, but I don't think it's a priority for many schools. They're just treading water and trying to keep their heads above water.
Literally, I think the teachers are overloaded. I don't think they're adequately funded. I think it's hard for teachers. They find it hard. It was interesting when our local primary school went on strike. One of the teachers went on strike, and it was her reasons weren't that they weren't being paid enough or anything. It was the amount of paperwork they have to do alongside the teaching. That was what her issue was.
It's a bit like farming, isn't it?
It is just piling the paperwork on for the same amount of money that you've always received and expecting more from you. And I find that they're spending more time filling paperwork out. It's like anything. It's like if you speak to the police at any point. Well, we've had police here for various reasons. We've helped them do, local campaigns and whatnot,
Yes.
quad bike theft,
Rural
etc.
crime
When
stuff.
you're arrested, the usual. But when you speak to the police, all they say is it's ruined by paperwork. 99% of the time is spent in the office drawing paperwork.
Yes. Yeah, it's
It's
crazy.
so
isn't it?
boring. This one is from Hattie. Hattie's my friend. She is, funnily enough, a lecturer. I'm trying to rewind this and it isn't working.
Preparation for test.
Oh no, there we've done it.
Hi.
So Hattie is she was a course tutor at Myerscough College, but it wasn't Myerscough College in Lancashire. It was Cumbria's version with like 7 pupils. And she was one of the lecturers there. So she's a really interesting girl. She's lovely. They milk goats at Meben Hall Goats if you want to have a look on Instagram. But yeah, this is what she had to say.
So, homeschooling, interesting subject. A family in the village do homeschool their children. There's quite a lot of them. They do a lot of work within Penrith community with a lot of other homeschooled kids, so they get that socialisation aspect as well of doing lots of things at home. Homeschooling isn't something that I have ever considered. This week, however, I have because Rory's really struggling in that transition from reception to year 1 and struggling with spellings, having the attention to do so. We're so busy on the farm and trying to work alongside that he's in after school club until 5:30. We get home, there's homework. We're expected to do a lot of reading and spellings with them in preparation for tests every week, and the jump's quite big. So I have contemplated it this week, but I feel that the school environment for him, just with our life being so chaotic at home, is really good routine for Rory. I had Charlie on the farm with me yesterday doing sheep with a school group. He was ace, it was really good. The students were really good with him. Whether that's right or wrong, I'm not too sure. He was doing sheep with us. I mean, he's 2.5. He was in the pens, pushing up, doing all sorts of things with the sheep. And yeah, I mean, Rory wanted to be at home that day doing sheep with us on the farm, but he'll get plenty of opportunity to do that in the future and at weekends. But
It's just another long one, so I'll just cut it down there. I don't know. I asked Hattie just because she popped up on my Instagram and I speak to her quite a lot. I just presumed she'd be the type of person. I don't know why. I had it in my head that she'd be the type of person who would have considered homeschooling.
Yes.
I don't know what it is.
Although, do you think it's a shame that a lot of parents only think of homeschooling because
Something's
their
going
children
wrong.
are struggling at school? Well,
Yeah.
the children struggling at school, why does it then fall back on the parents who are relying on a state
I'd
education
love to speak
system?
to somebody who's homeschooled older children. Everyone we've spoken to, they're all very similar age to us in the fact that they've got primary age children. I've not even spoken to anyone that's homeschooling, someone Anna's age.
Hello, Jessica.
Hi, Jessica.
Come on.
Look at your big, long, bushy tail. But
A lemur tail. She's got a lemur.
Big tail. Speak to the microphone, Jessica.
Purr. Oh my God, we could do purr.
ASMR. Purr, purr, purr. Oh, she's doing it. Sniff that microphone. Give it a nose.
Another comment. This is another long one. There's so much to talk about on this topic, don't we know it?
I know.
Don't
I
we
keep
know
thinking of things, and then the conversation moves on, and then I forget about it, and then I've just I had to write down COVID, and then
Well, we haven't, and we won't even get onto it in this episode. We haven't even got into provision of agriculture, food farming on the curriculum. If agriculture is pushed as a career option, we haven't even got into that, and we won't be on this episode.
I think that's
It's a whole
another topic
episode.
because I know Farmers Guardian are pushing a bit of
Yeah.
a thing, aren't they? So we'll maybe bring that
Maybe
up
we
as
should,
its
yeah.
own.
So, on the one hand, we need to understand that all children have different social and learning needs, but all too often I think farming children can be failed by the idea that they only want to be outside, or they only learn hands-on, or they don't get on with being in a classroom. And education is vital for everyone, and ultimately it is something for them to fall back on if they decide they don't want to farm or something happens to the farm. There is certainly not a one-size-fits-all answer to this, and understanding how children thrive and in what environment is crucial, but without them being labelled just because they haven't found their groove yet. I think that's an important one. I think labelling with some neurodivergent conditions, are we looking enough actually into some of the reasons behind displaying these behaviours? Do these behaviours have to necessitate that they've got autism or ADHD? I don't think so.
I know.
Anyway, we won't get into that because we'll be here forever.
I know. You just saw it go, didn't you?
Yeah. I was like,
Don't do it. Don't do it.
We did talk a little bit about labelling in a previous episode.
Yes, we did. And we'll definitely talk about it again, I think.
Yeah. There is certainly not a one-size-fits-all. As a wider issue, I would also look at discipline in schools, as children benefit from boundaries and structure to learn respect, amongst other skills which will stand them in good stead for later in life. Children need to be prepared for adulthood, and in the school/classroom setting, they learn vital skills such as compromise, resilience, understanding, patience, and which gets them to this stage of adulthood.
The podcast was very interesting that we both listened to, and it's weird we ended up both on the same podcast.
Just by searching.
Well, I listened to one of them and I just absolutely know it was shite. It wasn't good at all. And then we both stumbled upon the same one. It was a husband and wife considering to send, I think the child was 4. So
Yes.
coming, but that's a very young child to go to school, as
Yes.
I remember. Mine were older.
Yes. Well, I think they only have to go to school the term after they've turned 5.
In Ireland, they only go at 7.
Yeah, well, that was interesting, something about the different ages of countries. We're one of the
The
youngest countries. You know, they're there at 7 or 8 going.
And it is, I mean, is it like the milestones that your children reach? So they're crawling at a certain age, they potty train at
Yeah.
a certain age, they do this, they do that, they speak, they have the first word, they eat solids, whatever. Children all do these in their own time, and they really do. And at first child, you're like, oh my God, are they crawling? Have they, made a noise? Have they held their head up? Have they done this?
Yeah.
And you are so obsessed with whether or not your children are hitting these milestones. Mate, don't sweat it. They just do it.
Yes.
In their own time.
Yeah.
And in the end, they all end up, they've
Yeah,
all
pretty much
ended
in the same.
up in the same boat. I mean, is that the theory with homeschooling? Don't push it at such a young age. And yes, they will all come round. I'd be very interested to know, there will be a statistic, or maybe there won't, about like say for instance, I mean, how would you measure it? Successful people that were
Yes.
privately educated, successful people versus state educated. I wonder if there's a homeschool.
Yes, because I have got one for private school versus basically the attainment gap. So how
It's
I'll just
closing,
read
isn't it?
Well,
With
no, it's
English, maths, science, but not with the arts. The arts is getting bigger.
really.
Yeah.
Well, among children eligible for free school meals, 43% achieved a standard pass grade, so which is a grade 4. That's the new system, which I don't know, in English and maths at GCSE versus 72% of more affluent peers.
You've just knocked me with the fact that GCSEs have changed.
Yeah, it's not letters.
But how are we meant to judge people?
What's it for?
I'd be a 17.
Right, whilst we work out what GCSE numbers,
Well, Rebecca got a 1. We all
what
know
they
that. Do you get a 1 star now?
I don't know. We're going to take a little break and we'll be right back. Right, we're back. Farm kids in school.
Yes.
Big topic. I did an Instagram story on this a little while ago.
And I didn't believe it.
Well,
Isn't it funny?
interestingly, so it was Alicia Kearns. I can't
have
really
no
speak.
idea who that
She's
is.
an MP
right, okay.
for Stamford and Rutland, I think, so in Leicestershire.
Well, that's why I don't know her then, isn't it?
And
I only know mine, Tim Farron.
and she raised concerns about, well, let me read you a little bit from, if it'll load on here, read you a little bit from what she raised. I'm concerned by the anti-dairy, anti-meat, and frankly anti-farmer narrative that I'm starting to see, where students and children of farmers feel they're being silenced and can't speak out in support of their families who feed our country. Then at the time, the Education Secretary responded, I'm very alarmed as a rural member myself, very alarmed to hear the Honourable Lady's stories. She's right that we should be encouraging schools to educate children about where food comes from, blah, 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 blah. Now, I think it was very interesting that this was raised. The fact that an MP is I guess, willing to, well, let's say it, put a neck on the line to raise an issue which hasn't always been given a platform. But anyway, I did an Instagram story off the back of this, And it was one of my most replied to stories pretty much ever. As I said, it was a couple of years ago now. I didn't do one properly this time. Maybe I should have done. But a bit of a mix, but mostly negative experiences of farming children in schools. So I'm an agricultural engineer. Nobody encourages it. I left in 2017. I'm a farmer and go to school in the city and get the piss taken out of me because I have a mullet and drive machinery. They think it's funny.
Well, it is. Get your bloody haircut.
Not many small farms in villages anymore was one point.
Yeah, it is.
And I thought
everyone used to know a farmer.
Or you'd probably walk past the village farm to get to primary school
Yeah,
or
they're
whatever.
all built on now, aren't they?
Got an 11-year-old stepdaughter and she keeps getting fed anti-farming stuff from school. I was quite silenced at school. Busy fighting our cause with a local high school who hosted a cookery demo by Action for Animals.
Oh, wow, that's a bit...
Very anti-dairy, and I've heard a lot of misinformation spread, especially about animal welfare in school and uni.
I think university has a lot to answer to. I really do.
When I was at college, I never mentioned my background for fear of being shot down. My son has returned from school very annoyed by comments made by teachers, inaccurate and biased. One of the kids I teach in school is a farmer's son, gets bullied all the time.
You've got to remember, nobody, politicians, teachers, whatever, nobody knows more about farming than we do.
Yes.
Nobody. And if we do not share our story and our way of life, how are these people going to be, in a word, educated on farming?
Yes.
They're not.
Well,
and shouting at people and getting cross at them, I don't think solves anything. It really, no one wants to be preached at.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I didn't go to parents' evening. I did not want to be preached at. So I sent Roy.
It's interesting.
And now we've got an iPad. Look at where we are.
It's all Roy's fault.
It is.
It's interesting because I would say my primary school was it was very rural. Also, I'm 30, so it was... the narrative around farming has definitely become more anti-farming.
Yes, very recent, hasn't it? Very much.
But we definitely used to take pet lambs into school.
I'd taken pigs to school and lambs.
Yeah. Then changed schools. That was a private school. It was an all-girls school. It had stables. Every teacher pretty much had a dog. It was in the countryside. It was a privilege. But it didn't matter if you'd been out with the sheep or something and smelt of a lambing shed, because some of the other girls might have been riding that morning, or they'd been...
Can we just talk about the time that you necked a pigeon?
Actually, no, that's quite good, because that feeds me into what I was going to say in the...
Oh my God, I did that on purpose.
segue.
It was brilliant.
So at uni, what I was going to say is that was my first proper exposure to people who...
non-countryside people.
No interest, no knowledge really, and, some of the best minds in the country...
Yes, they were.
Didn't know anything about farming. And anyway, so I remember it was after a night out and we used to go to this place for breakfast.
Drinks had been consumed.
And anyway, to get to this place, you had to cut through this bit of a manky alleyway, with some bins and stuff. Anyway, there was a pigeon which absolutely had been hit by a car. So it wasn't right. Anyway, I saw it, and I think it could have even had a little bit of kind of blood on its beak or whatever. And I saw it and I thought, that is going to die a slow, painful death, or be caught by a rank town fox or whatever. So anyway, it's 10, 11 o'clock. And I necked this pigeon. Now I was with good friends who I'm still in contact with now, not farming. And I explained to them, I said, I am going to, am I allowed to say the word kill? Does that get you banned? I'm going to dispatch this pigeon. And I don't think they could quite believe it. I think they were in shock. But I explained, I said, I am in a position to put this animal out of its misery, to end its suffering. And actually, that's the right thing to do. And we had this conversation and they understood in the end. They completely understood it. So, but it still gets brought up now, 10 years on, that I killed a pigeon when we were at uni. But I think it's really, really interesting. How else are some people not from farming or rural backgrounds going to get that knowledge if not for speaking to somebody in farming or somebody who has experienced that kind of thing? And I think this probably is a good time to bring in that quote from one of our listeners.
Flipping the question. Oh, wait, that was literally just like the worst jump. I'm so shit at this. Absolutely funny. So the quote said, flipping the question slightly from an outsider's perspective, I actually owe my career in agriculture to having farming families in my secondary school. I didn't grow up on a farm, but being part of that rural community gave me the chance to find my path into agriculture. It shaped my whole job and friendships through things like Young Farmers Club and at county and national level, the Cumberland Show and the Farmer Network, with experiences further afield, forming a great network of people. I still joke that if I hadn't found the farming corner at school, I'd have probably ended up a goth. That's why I think it's so important that farming children do attend school, not just for the social side, which is crucial in isolated rural areas, but also to build different friendships and keep doors open to other careers, perhaps for them to get away from agriculture. For me, having farmers in school was what made me take the path I'm on now. And without that, I doubt I'd be working for England's oldest agricultural co-op selling dairy cake. I keep telling people I'm a professional storyteller. So for me, the answer to homeschooling is the opposite. I'd encourage more integration. Schools with agricultural students can easily really help educate outsiders. I'd love to see food and farming and food security on the curriculum too, because there's such a disconnect between people and where their food comes from. Farming isn't just milking cows or sitting on a tractor all day. There's science, technology, and communications, and careers for people who weren't born into it. That wider awareness could bring so many new skills to the industry and inspire more young people to get involved.
What an interesting viewpoint from the other side. I think it's fascinating. And also,
I wish I'd have found the farming corner at school, though. I really do, because I failed for the majority of my life. That's not even an exaggeration. I think, do you know what? I think I once said something along those lines, and I was at the Farmers Guardian at Lama on stage.
Yeah.
And I'd said that story, and I was a bit choked up, and I was like, fuck, that's not like me, like at all. But it's so true. The only thing I've ever, and then I do something stupid like that, and so the only thing I've ever excelled at's farming. No, it isn't. Like anything I put my mind to, I will excel at. Like literally, I can run a 23-minute 5K. Like anything I do, I've got to overdo it to the point that I'm good at it.
Yes.
Then I'm happy. Then I move on.
Yes.
It literally is what I've been. I don't know what. It's just in me.
Yes.
But I did not excel. In life, I don't think. I never had a direction until I found farming. And it really does, it's a place that I think more people deserve to find, but it's how you integrate it into schools to get children to understand.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's interesting the way that she said, actually, school gives farming children perhaps an outlet to expend their energy into a different career as well.
Well, it's funny.
I hadn't really thought about that.
Roy said something interesting. We've got some land that we rent a couple of miles down the road, and there's a shed up there. There's some hay, and he goes and he spreads muck and stuff. And he said to someone about it yesterday. He said, "I love it up there." He said, "If I've ever really had enough, and there's people here and everything's, so I'll just take, I'll go and get a bale from Malcolm's." He said, "And I'll just take myself up there." And he said, and it's an escape, and that's his place that he goes to go and pick up a bale, which is something so simple.
Yes.
But it's an escape from the farm. It's an out. It's a thing.
We underestimate the need for it, I think, because you're so wrapped up in farming. And actually, if you homeschool your farming children, are you ingraining in them a sense of like extreme obligation and a tie to the farm, which is your home,
Well, let's look
your
at Anna.
workplace,
Anna hates farming. She does not enjoy it. And I've tried and tried to explain to people, and it's a really peculiar conversation to have, that you've taken your child out of school and you're sending her somewhere private, and she's boarding, she's there, 5 nights a week. And I go and, I take her on a Monday morning, pick her up on a Sunday. And it's not something that, God, I don't know whether I've not shouted about it. I did a video, didn't I? And I thought it was a little bit incognito, and kind of those who know anyway. School got in touch and said, could we use it? Because it's a really nice video. So I was like, oh shit, I've kind of effed that one up a little bit.
But hold on, can I? This is not off topic. Why did you keep it incognito?
Oh God, because I just think people would judge me and somehow and think I'm up myself.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Because of comments like that woman on that podcast.
Yes.
Within the first 5 minutes, she'd called her husband, posh boy school.
Yes.
And then within the first 3 episodes, she'd mentioned it, or she'd mentioned it multiple times about, and it wasn't just, you had a good education. It was in a derogatory way that he was better educated than her. And I don't know why, because this is coming from someone who's slating the public, whatever state school system, and considering taking a child out and home educating them.
Yes.
Why has she got such a viewpoint of private education?
Yes.
Because they'd already said if they could afford to, they'd be privately educating the kids. So why is that the bit that I don't want to have that conversation? So like I don't know, I'll tell people about it, and I'm like, but she doesn't like farming, so we had to get her away. And I feel like I've got to make an excuse of why I've done it.
100%.
I've done it because it's the best thing for her.
Yes. Well, I, to be honest, haven't faced too much, let's say, backlash, apart from when the inheritance tax stuff came out. Now, paying
I remember the guy's username as, God, I went mad, didn't I?
Yeah, paying £1 million.
Did I get told off for swearing
I
at him on
think
Twitter?
so.
Let's find it.
Paying £1 million in inheritance tax, which is, we won't get into that now, but anyway, that's obviously, if you follow anything to do with farming, you'll have heard about the inheritance tax proposals, which are about to be implemented shortly. But I was absolutely slated for speaking up on this because I went to a private school, therefore my family are obviously rich. Well, they're not. They're not.
It was you and Wardy, wasn't it? And it was on, was it, who was it, what was it on?
I think, wasn't it on?
It was on Twitter.
It was on Twitter.
And the guy, he literally, but it was very strange because he'd literally gone and researched every school you went to.
Yes.
And I was like, that's a bit...
Tell you what, my schools were brilliant, so
that's a bit
more
scary.
Yeah.
But that was you don't get an opinion on this because you went to a good school. And I'm like, hold on a minute, hon.
Also, I do... this is one misconception which I just absolutely detest. Everybody who sends their children to private school is rich.
No.
Well, actually...
let me tell you, they ain't.
My parents don't go on holiday. Every meal was, tiny things. You don't waste food because we can't afford to waste food. We maybe went out for tea twice a year.
Listen,
if that.
Look at the cars that people are driving. I'm not being funny. So there will be people that pull up to Appleby Grammar School, where Anna did go to, in new Defenders. I know a lovely girl, brand new Defender.
Yeah.
I will have that old shagged out BMW for years to come. There's nothing wrong with it. It was 18 grand off Motability. It was an early handback from somebody in Birmingham that probably, had some disability.
This is it. It's how you spend your money. And I actually think if you earn a large income but would rather spend it on holidays, cars, a big fancy house, and not
Last
try
time I
and
went on
provide,
holiday was 2015.
and not try and provide for your children through education. I'm quite strongly opinionated on this. Are you doing your children a disservice? But anyway, we won't get into that too much. I've probably gone into...
I think the private school things, I think it's quite interesting. I don't mind talking about it. Like, you won't either.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting... because it is a different outlook on something.
Well, private schools probably give you, to some extent, the things that you're wanting by homeschooling at obviously a cost. More time outside, more provision for sport, for extracurricular activities, smaller class sizes, more hands-on, more resources, more soft skills. Interestingly, I've just been back to one of the schools I went to from 10 to 16 to speak at. It was
Isn't that funny that you've just said that and I've just pulled your dad up on Twitter talking about it? He's just so
He's so
supportive,
cute,
clapping
bless
in the
him.
background.
Aww. And I went back and it was an early leadership event. So everybody there was 10. These girls were 10. And it was about her voice. obviously having a voice, communicating. So I did a session, obviously a bit of background on the farm. I took in lamb pellets, wool, hay, rapeseed, barley seed, and then went and dug up a rapeseed plant and a barley plant. They absolutely loved it. But then also factored in what I would consider part of my job, which is doing podcast stuff. These 10-year-olds had microphones on their table. They had to describe what would be in their best day. So I said my best day would be sheep, something to do with the arable side of the farm and recording. These girls, their communication was absolutely unbelievable. Now, they had brought in some children from other primary schools in the area. And
That's amazing.
They were brilliant as well. So I'm not saying that the only people who could speak on a microphone have been to private school, but
it is apparent. Look at me and you.
Yeah.
Even down to the way that you read, it is more advanced. And it's not anything, it's not, but look, I struggle to find a word. You just do it. It is different. It does make a difference.
Can we just have a look? There's 2 videos which make me think of this. They're on our Instagram. The first one is we went to that AHDB media training thing.
She comes from silver spoon, golden rules.
But it was really funny because we were in almost a classroom environment, weren't we? I was writing notes and Charlotte was just spinning on her wheelie chair. Now, I know we did that in
And
jest,
it wasn't
but
put on either.
no, actually, the spinning on the wheelie chair, you were just doing
I was
that.
doing it. Don't give me a chair with wheels.
But it was interesting. And then the other one, and again, we made a joke out of it, but it was the Young British Farming Awards, which actually was a real privilege.
Oh God, it was so
to
funny
judge.
that. Do you know what? I'll put it in because it was that funny.
We saw that in the people that we judged. A few of the words, I guess, that we'd pick out were probably enthusiasm, resilience, and the charitable activities that the people we saw were undertaking show that young farmers are really a force for good in their local community.
I don't even need to say anything.
No, you just slide off. Do you just want to stand there?
They asked a question, I just answered it, and Charlotte was like,
I might as well not even be here, and just walked off. It was really funny. But I think I want to give Anna that opportunity. I want her to be able to walk into a room and present in front of 60 people,
Yes.
regardless of age or anything, or
Yes.
what subject it is. I want her to have that confidence. I want her to have that gravitas. I remember doing the AHDB live streamy circle things that we did. And I remember going to Helen at primary school, who was the receptionist, and she's also an accountant by trade. And I said to her, she said, how did it go? And I said, it was shit, Helen. And she was like, why? And I said, I just really struggled being able to come in. And she was like, oh, it's called, she said, look, and she had to tell me the word because I just didn't understand.
yes, yeah.
So that it does make a difference. And I think Anna, we talk about children on farms. We're not talking about the children that don't like farming.
Yes,
Anna
absolutely.
does not like farming. She is stuck in her bedroom. She's upstairs. The only time she gets asked out to come outside is normally when I'm screaming, the cows are out
Something's
getting a gap.
escaped.
They'll be swearing, they'll be stressed, there'll be, that heightened anxiety of the situation. And there is, I understand. And she does not get out. Rufus loves it. You can't get him off the farm.
Yeah,
He is outside all the time. The amount of times, God. What? Yeah. Okay, we're coming in.
That's our lunchtime. That's our signal to
dinner
wrap
time.
it up.
That is our signal to wrap it up. But yeah, I do think it has a place. We have to that didn't make a bit of fucking sense. Hold on. I do think we have to realise that not every child enjoys farming, and I think homeschooling definitely has a place on farms, which makes it quite interesting. But also children on farms in general. Anna doesn't like it. She would become resentful. She was getting more isolated as time went on because she was spending more and more time indoors on her own.
Yes.
Because I'm outside. I didn't have the physical time to be able to God, you've seen the state of our house. I don't have the time to tidy up. Never mind take her to piano lessons and swimming lessons and do all these things that she deserves
Yes.
to do as a child.
Yeah.
So and then that with the combined effect of struggling at school, her attitude changed in general. I don't think she'd mind me saying she was probably more concerned with fitting in and her appearance, which is something I definitely didn't want. She was feeling the stress of everyone else around her having mobile phones and her not having mobile phone. And yeah, it just made perfect sense. And do you know what? How many weeks is it in now?
Oh my gosh.
She's flourishing.
She's thriving.
I can't even tell you. She's doing so well.
Yes.
She really is. She is enjoying every minute, and she rings me at night, and she really is. It's such the right decision to do it. And at first, and you know, I never felt any anxiety about the whole thing either, because they were so accommodating.
Yes.
Well, obviously they're going to be accommodating. They're taking large sums of money off you, but that's not the point. It really did. It really did work for her.
Yes.
I don't think it'll work for Rufus.
No.
It's a difference. It's the same as homeschooling. It's a difference of your children.
And that's it. And I think that is a brilliant way to kind of end this episode, in that every child is going to have those different learning needs, different interests. But as parents, not being a parent myself, it's about learning to adapt different ways of learning to them, allowing them to pursue interests and passions, but not at the expense of boundaries, discipline, respect, resilience, tolerance, and just having to do sometimes things that you don't want. And I genuinely believe if homeschooling doesn't have enough structure, and it's you don't want to do drawing today, or you don't want to do writing today, we'll just go off and play, I don't think that's always the solution. But anyway, we'll still take any thoughts on that. I'm sure we'll revisit schooling and the curriculum in particular. Actually, if you've got any thoughts on the curriculum, please do let us know. But if you've enjoyed today's episode, perhaps you've learnt something, perhaps you've
Join
had
our little
a laugh
podcast
with
community.
us. Yes, please do. You can leave us a review.
Yeah, that's one way you can shape the episodes as well, because
Yes.
we're putting things on there for people to contribute, which has been really nice to be able to pull from.
And a few little life updates on there every now and then if we've got a nice picture, or
Pictures of Rufus with an apple, that kind of stuff.
or me saying the deluge of biblical rain that we had the other day.
Yes.
But yeah, if you've got any friends who you think would enjoy listening, send them a link. And the Facebook community, that is where you can share your thoughts, potential episode ideas as well. So please do join on there, and we'll put a link to that in the show notes.
Lovely. Thank you very much for listening. Love you long time. See you next time. Do, 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 do.